It's time for another podcast by George. Straight talk, straight from the Heartland, that'll have you saying, "By George, I think he's got it." Now, here's George.
Hello, hi, how are you? And welcome on into a podcast by George. I'm going to have some fun today, folks. You know, when I started the podcast, I said it was news, blues, and interviews. I'd get some music on once in a while. I've had some hockey on, but it's mostly been news, a lot of politics, and a lot of important stuff. I mean, our world as we know it is at risk in more ways than one. So obviously the news cycle has been dominating the podcast, but we're going to talk hockey today, and we're going to talk with my old buddy, my old pal, 18-year-old Noah Ellis. He just got drafted out of the Heartland in the 6th round by the Las Vegas Golden Knights in the National Hockey League, and that's big stuff in my world, and I know it is in his, and we're going to hear all about it here today. Noah, welcome to a podcast by George.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, I want to be upfront with people here. I'm not going to call Noah a kid. I hear interviewers do that once in a while. Noah's not a kid. He's 18 years old. I kind of take offense to that a little bit because when I was 18, I was in my 2nd year of college. I'd been driving a dump truck since 14. And folks, each year we commemorate D-Day. You know, those guys that went onshore in Normandy and got their asses blown apart? A lot of those guys were 18. Matter of fact, most of them might have been about 18 years old. So Noah's not a kid, and his game certainly isn't a kid compared to mine. I look up to Noah Ellis because he's a hell of a lot better than I am. But anyway, let's get the groundwork out of the way. Noah, I know you've been asked this a lot, but that's got to be it's a moment that guys like me and all the hockey guys that we know and play with can only dream about, and that's having your name called, getting drafted by the NHL. What's that feeling like?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. I mean, so the start of last year, you know, all these lists come out and you see if you're on them or not. And I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's guys that were drafted that weren't even on it. There were guys that were way off. So like all these lists come out. So, I mean, they're cool to look at, but some of them can kind of be, you know, a little intimidating. I mean, if you're not on them or if you're really high up or whatever. So you kind of just play your own game. And I think this year was a really fun year, and I'm excited it worked out how it did.
Well, as I mentioned, Noah's a great hockey player. He's not a kid by any stretch of the imagination, particularly when it comes to his on-game ice. He's already got a long list of accomplishments. Most notably, he's a member of the Des Moines Buccaneers, the United States Hockey League. I was vice president of that team during its glory years. I worked with the Bucs for a couple of decades or more, so I've always had the Buccaneers near and dear to my heart. That's very impressive, and I was in the stands when Noah scored his first goal for the Buccaneers, and I want to take a look at that. I want to play that video. I've got that snippet. Let's take a look at that. So that's it. Goal number 1 for the United States Hockey League's Noah Ellis with the Des Moines Buccaneers. This is the top Junior A program in the United States. This is a very high level of competition. And Noah's returning to the team this year. He's already committed to UMass, a D1 college team. And the visibility of the USHL and the Buccaneers couldn't be higher, and deservedly so. Noah, you weren't the only guy drafted off of your team last year. Weren't there 3 guys?
Yeah. There's Alex Laferriere. He went in the 3rd round. He had a really good year last year. He was a great player, great kid. He went to the LA Kings. And then Lucas Mercury went in the 6th round as well to the Carolina Hurricanes. And he's going to go to UMass as well, so that's pretty exciting.
You know, I watched the playoffs in the bubble like a lot of people did. I thought Vegas showed well. I mean, they, again, top-notch hockey team. I love watching those guys. You know, I'm always the guy, oddly enough, that I watch because his game's nothing like mine. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the sluggers, but that Ryan Reeves that the Golden Knights has, I mean, I'd love to have that guy on my team because nobody's going to screw with you when that guy's on the ice or maybe even when he's on the bench. And I was just really shocked when the Penguins traded him to Vegas, because he was the perfect guy to have on a team with Sidney Crosby and Malkin and those guys that don't like the rough stuff, that are there to put points up on the board. I thought he was perfect on that team, but there he sits in Vegas. And no, I also wanted to ask you about another one of those players with the Vegas Knights. I know that a player whose game that you really like, and that's Shea Theodore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just, a big defenseman that is really smooth. He likes to have the puck on his stick. It's just a guy that I like to watch, and I try to kind of resemble, just because he's probably the most underrated defenseman in the NHL right now. I was listening to some I don't even remember what it was. It was some sort of podcast, and Craig Button was on there. And it had to do with the Golden Knights, and they were talking about if NHL players could play in the Olympics, where they'd have Shea Theodore, if they'd have him considered or whatever. And Craig Button said without a doubt, like, he'd be stupid not to even have him on his list. So he's a guy that's really came out of the ranks the past couple of years, and he's a treat to watch.
Yeah, and he, like you say, he's got size, as you do. You're 6'2", 18 years old, still got a potential for some growth, going to get stronger there. But you're fast, but that's kind of a misnomer. People think of straight line fast. You're really quick. Just like him. And I've been on the ice with Noah, and I'm telling you, it's an eye-opener. I mean, you can instantly see that. Who's this big guy? He's going to be a thud foot out there. No, Noah's not a thud foot at all. I mean, he can move, and he can move the puck. And I got to tell you, this damn COVID thing is, it's a heartbreaker for me, because it's taken me off the ice. I haven't been on skates since March, Noah. You probably haven't missed me any, but one of the highlights really for me, and has been for a long time, is in the summer months when guys are back home from their teams and out of their camps and whatever, and they're looking for a little summer ice. I get to play with them. Now it's pickup hockey. Back in the day, they actually joined on our summer leagues, summer men's leagues, and we got to play with and against these really good returning college players and minor pro players. And my God, it's a career highlight. But that's not I'm very disappointed that I haven't been able to do that this year. What's your COVID experience been like this year, Noah? How's it affected what you normally would be doing? Because you're in and out of camps, going to locations and stuff like that. What's it been like?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't been affected too much, thankfully, hockey-wise. As soon as the season ended, like mid-March, I was off the ice for about 2 weeks. And then I got to start skating back at Bucks again. I was out there with Grasso and Cecile, and we were out there for about a month or so. And then in the summers, I head over to Omaha, and I go to this camp called Next Level. It was started last summer by a coach that used to play at UNO Mavericks college over there. And so I live with my billets that I had when I played Omaha AAA. And so it's really good camp. We're on the ice 2 hours Monday through Friday each day, and then we go to the gym right after. And this summer it was crazy. All of a sudden we got out there, and there was AHL guys. There's some guys from Austria. There's some kids from Texas that always come up. So it's pretty wide known camp from that regard. But so yeah, I was over there all summer. Not really affected too much, other than our camp got pushed back till very start of August. But there's no camps or anything I really missed that I would have had to go to that had to get canceled.
Well, and Noah mentioned a couple of names there, Garrett Cecile and Grasso. Those guys are both D1 college players, and of course, our buddy Grasso has been on the podcast out at the University of New Hampshire. I hope they get a season. I got to check in with him again, which just kind of reminds me, and I mentioned at the top that I take exception sometimes to guys calling these players like Noah kids. They kind of are, but honest to God, I don't know if I would describe them that way. And the other thing that they like to do is say, well, Noah, you're from Des Moines. Gee, that's not a hockey hotbed. Do they have hockey in Des Moines? Well, as I mentioned, we got the Des Moines Buccaneers. We've had an American Hockey League team. That's a AAA pro hockey in Des Moines for many years, and we're generating great talent, evidenced by the fact that Noah just got drafted. So I kind of wish that they would drop that. I got to tell you, a player that I know you've skated with, and so have I, Noah, Chad Costello, has been on the podcast. He's played all over America, and he's going to Norway this year. He set records in in minor pro hockey, wherever he went, basically. He was on the podcast and he said, hey, I want to tell you something. There's some good players in Des Moines. So I'll put in a little plug for the hometown.
Yeah, for sure. I know when I was playing AAA here probably 3 or 4 years ago, I can just tell that hockey's still growing here. I saw a lot of little kids coming at once, like even little girls. There were so many. I remember I think I only played with like 1 or 2. So I think they're really working to get everyone involved and to at least have everyone try it, because I know they have that Try Hockey Day in the U.S. and I know they do that every year. I'm sure I don't think they were able to do it this year, obviously, but I used to help out with that when I was younger, and it was pretty cool to see all these little kids and their smile on their face and really enjoy the sport.
Well, I got to tell you, like I said, I really miss having the opportunity to play this past summer, but hopefully they'll get a vaccine and maybe we can get out there and skate around a little bit next year. Which reminds me, I was thinking, I saw an interview one time with this old-time golf guy, Ben Hogan, and a great golfer. And I read that, and he was kind of a surly guy, could be at times, but he did not like to play with rank amateurs like I am to you. And they said, well, why don't you like to do that? He didn't even want to look at them. He was afraid that he would assimilate or acquire some of their bad habits, or that it would rub off on him. I don't know exactly what, but Ben Hogan did not like to play with guys that weren't really good, professional grade golfers. Does it bother you if you get a chance to play with the hometown guys like myself? Do you like getting out on the ice with that ragtag stuff, or do you kind of stay away from that?
No, yeah, I love to. I've gone to those since I was 13. But it's just time to kind of let loose, not have to worry about anything. I mean, it's time when hockey's a ton of fun again, like when you're little, when you don't have to worry about anything. Obviously, it's still fun or whatever, or else I wouldn't be doing it. But it's a time where I can just kind of let loose and hang out with my buddies and talk to guys like you on the bench, and it's just a ton of fun.
Well, it's a highlight for me. I really miss it. I hope I can do it again, get out there on the ice and play with my pal Noah Ellis. Well, Noah, before we let you go today, now you're on kind of a path. I mean, you've got the Buccaneers, your primary focus with the United States Hockey League. They're going to resume hopefully in November. They're going to start their 2021 season. After that, you've got the scholarship secured with UMass, and now comes this big news about being drafted in the National Hockey League. Where does that fit in? Does that change your approach, or are you pretty much on the same track that you were before?
Yeah, I don't know. You just kind of look at it and just kind of continue to work harder. So I'll probably spend this year here and then head out to UMass and see kind of how it goes with timeline and everything, and see what Vegas is saying with all that, and kind of go from there.
Well, I want to wish you all the best, Ed. I can only put myself in your situation when I was your age. I mean, the light comes on kind of, and it's come on for Noah. When I was a kid, I got to tell you this. It was always believed that if you worked the hardest, if you tried the hardest, if you wanted it the most, you could make it to that level. You could become a pro. I got to tell you something, folks. That's since become known to not exactly be true. That's a big part of it, let me tell you. But you got to have that ability in you. I mean, I don't know if it's genetic. I don't know if it's acquired. That's debatable. But you got to have that ability. And Noah Ellis has got it, and he's on his way, and I'm glad that he's been on the show. Noah, thanks again for coming on a podcast by George.
Yeah, thanks a ton.
And if you enjoy this, if you like the hockey stuff, go back through the archives. You'll find some of those episodes. And, of course, we're going to always have on the news and views and interviews and some blues music, and once in a while we'll talk a little puck, too. But that's going to do it for today. That's all there is, folks, and there ain't no more. That's another podcast by George.